George Michael's cousin, Chris Antoniou, has shared how he was left speechless after allegedly receiving supernatural messages from the late superstar via his car radio. Recalling the eerie events in detail, the retired civil servant described how he was journeying to Sainsbury's when a spooky interruption occurred. Allegedly, all communication channels went silent, leaving nothing but static, before he claims to have heard George's voice distinctly call out his name. In an unexpected turn of events, it seemed the same chilling phenomenon happened once more, later that day. On this second occurrence, it was purported that through the eerily quiet radio once again came George's voice, but this time uttering the words "I am free." Chris, being a family member of the Wham frontman, strongly believes that these messages indicate that the beloved pop star is now finally at peace. As a resident of Aldershot, Hampshire, he couldn't hide his shock as he recalled the unique incident. "I was shocked. It was totally amazing. It completely lifted my spirits." Being proud of their close relationship, he said, "We had a good connection. I think I understood him more than anyone else, so I think that's why he contacted me." Marking the memorable date, he pinpointed that the strange contacts were made on July 29. In fact, Chris was left even more baffled when later that same day, he claimed to have heard his cousin's voice come over the static for a second time. Speaking of this encounter, he stated, "The same thing happened, the radio went all static, but this time George's voice said 'I am free.'" Since the weirdly fascinating incidents, Chris says he has been hoping for another mystic moment, wishing to hear from his departed relative once again. Thoughtfully considering the meaning behind these events, he reflected, "I suppose it was just a message saying that he is free now." Recollecting the star's ambitions in life, he added, "He always wanted to be famous, but when it happened it was quite hard for him." Chris, a retired civil servant, reminisces about his teenage years when he discovered that George had suddenly hit the big time. "One day my dad just said to me, 'George is on top of the pops,'" he recalled. Despite George moving his family and changing his phone number, Chris maintained some contact with him. He said, "We had a good connection. He was always busy, but most of the time he was on his own." Chris was taken aback by what transpired but felt very happy that his cousin had reached out to him. "I think maybe he was looking down realizing that I was unhappy," he mused. When George declared "I am free," Chris understood his meaning. The Wham star often confided in Chris about the difficulties of fame. "He used to tell me he found fame very hard, once he became famous in the Wham days he couldn't even go out to the shops anymore," Chris shared. He remembers suggesting to George that he could wear a disguise, but George would retort that if he did, he would feel defeated in life. George Michael tragically passed away on Christmas Day in September 2016 at the age of 53. He remains one of the best-selling musicians of all time, with record sales estimated to be between 100 million to 125 million worldwide.